Hello. So, title of the video, is your church Calvinist? If so, 5 things you definitely need to know about John Calvin, which are going to blow your mind. Right, so to find out if your church is basically Calvinist, you need to find out if they uphold the Westminster Confession of Faith, which was done around 1646 as part of the English Reformation because of the Civil War that broke out. So basically, the Westminster Confession of Faith upheld Reformed Calvinist tradition, which was about the structure and governance of the church as opposed to an episcopal structure, which the Church of England initially favoured under Henry VIII, which was basically a very Catholic structure of bishops and cardinals. So what's fascinating about this is the Westminster Confession of Faith is upheld by pretty much all Presbyterian, all Congregational churches, probably about half of Baptist churches, and even some fragments of the Church of England uphold this document. So it's a massive document that's gone all around the world. Now, I'm not going to bore you with Tulip, the 5 sort of tenets of Calvinism, and what John Calvin fundamentally stands for in regards to salvation. But instead of that, I'm just going to tell you 5 wild facts about John Calvin. And it may influence the doctrines of your church, it may not. But the first fact was he was actually born a Roman Catholic. He was training to be a Roman Catholic priest in Paris at a very young age until his father was excommunicated from the church. His father was actually an administrator to a local bishop. No one really knows how he actually got excommunicated, but it was a reason why Calvin got pulled out of Catholic Seminary College, and he ended up studying law and humanism instead. An interesting thing about John Calvin is he believes in his works that Mary remained a perpetual virgin. So, sorry to break your heart, Protestants. Second one, him being a humanist, right? What's crazy about him being a Renaissance humanist, as they would say, is the fact that he basically believed it was a civic duty for society to run in a way where basically the individual has full autonomy to learn and grow and get better for the greater good. And that sounds great. It sounds like a very sort of utopian society. But Calvin also believed that a person is incapable of making their own free will decisions. And he also believed that there should still be an authority structure in place, like church governance. So you have to question really if he was fully a humanist or not. Okay, so third one, which I think is massive, and a lot of people don't know it, is he did not like the Anabaptists. So Anabaptists were people that believed in adult baptism. And the reason why he didn't like them is for 2 reasons. One, he felt the importance of baptism was great for Christendom in the sense that it grafts young children in to the new covenant, just like the Jews were grafted into the Abraham's covenant under circumcision. He saw it as a massive thing to grow the kingdom and have unity, almost like a point of entry. So he had real sort of high church view of that sacrament. He didn't believe that it necessarily regenerated, but he did believe that it was a mark and a seal of grace from God, and it was efficacious. There is a caveat to this, though. Calvin obviously believed in the predestined elect. So how do you know if you're elect when you're baptized if it doesn't regenerate? This is the thing. Calvin admitted that not all baptized believers were part of his election plan. And of course, there's people that were not baptized and part of his election plan who would then go on to get baptized. So if that's not confusing, I don't know what is. But yes, most Presbyterian and Congregational churches still uphold Calvin's infant baptism and see the merit in that. But yeah, that was a shock when I first heard it. Okay, number 4, he believed in double predestination. Well, predestination is one thing, but double predestination? What's that? Well, double predestination basically is when somebody believes that God before time decides if you're part of his called elect or not. In fact, it basically means that only people who get saved are basically foreknown by God before they're even born. Now, what's frightening about this is it means basically that your life is sealed from the day you're conceived. You're in zero control of your free will, and your predestination is fully mapped out. And where he differed from Martin Luther is Martin Luther believed, yes, God does predestine certain people to be saved. We see that in the Bible, but he doesn't predestine everybody to be saved. Imagine a teacher, he knows who his best pupils are, but there's always going to be that odd pupil that's going to shine without him knowing. And that's kind of God's grace. But no, Calvin believed in double predestination. And this goes on to the fifth and the final one. Okay, Calvin believed in determinism. Now, what is determinism? Determinism basically means that God ordains and permits sin. So, in other words, even his chosen elect, his good people, they're still going to sin, just like the unsaved are going to sin. And it has no bearing at all. In fact, God controls every action, decision, everything they do in their life. And he actually allows the sin, you could argue, creates the sin to be made. So that means that God preordains people to go to hell. He preordains people to be damned from the day of conception, which is a very interesting point, because predeterminism certainly insinuates that there's an issue with free will. So that's the fifth one, and that's the final one. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember to hit the like button if you think the content's good. Don't forget to subscribe, and also share it if it's useful for your friends. Okay, God bless, brothers. Amen.